had the great schus learning with Rav Moti last night, and he brought a Moharan, a nifla, wondrous way of looking at the Torah of Rabbi Nachman. He said anybody who wants to enter into the palace of Rabbi Nachman should know a little bit what they're entering into. You know, when you go to a certain place, certain palaces, go into Mar-a-Lago, you know, there's going to be rooms within rooms. So, listen to this idea of what learning Lekutei Moharan is from Moharan, Shin Pei Tes, in the middle here. Mvor gamkein masha barely pamachas ve'amar li. So Rav Nachman told Rav Nosson, Ki ha-Torah shaloi hem kamoi mi shenichnas lepalatin. It's like someone who comes into a palace. Learning these Torahs is like somebody who's walking into a palace. Now, what do you see when you come into a palace? Sheyesh boi heichalus. You see heichal. You see big halls. You see big heichal, like a whole palace within a palace. V'chadorim. And you see rooms that go off the large banquet halls inside the palace. These rooms, v'achsadrus, and all sorts of palatial balconies. Pishpashin. Pishpashin noim means like all sorts of intricate, beautiful little things that you see in the rooms, in the heichalos, in the palace. And you start walking around and you start seeing these beautiful things. Noim v'nifloim v'noyroim me'oid. Wondrous, awesome things. Treasures. Abe Lincoln's, walking stick. Sheyesh boi va'aliyos. And also you come and you see aliyos. You see that it's not only happening on one floor. You see that there's staircases that take you up to other floors. And there's other staircases that go up to higher floors. Aliyas al gabi aliyas shoynes bedarchei chidushim v'noyroim, which are all wondrous as you're going through the palace. Wondrous. Now here's where something happens. V'tekev k'shenechnosim b'cheder echad matchilin listakel boy. You come into one room and you start looking around. V'yispala al niflois achidushim asher boy. You start seeing wondrous what I'm seeing over here. I went into the palace. I went into the first banquet area. Like, you come into these nice, like, big homes, and when you first walk into the entrance, you see there's the stairwells, the double staircase going up. You could see, there must be a west wing, an east wing. And then from there that I see stairs going downstairs. You can understand and organize the whole picture of the house by going in. So you start exploring. You start going to the west wing. And then you're exploring in the west wing, and from there you go into other rooms. And all of a sudden you're on the west wing, and you realize that this is a very fascinating area. I went in, I took the first stairwell, and now it took me to this wing, and I'm going down the hallway, and I enter into this big banquet area inside the home. And I understand that I'm on the west wing. And I'm seeing beautiful things there, great treasures and things. But all of a sudden, I open up a door. And next thing I know, I open up that door, and I find myself on the east wing. Wait a second, I was just on the west. What happened? How did I get to the... So I start exploring the east wing. Because now I'm on the east wing. I don't know how I got here, but somehow I'm here. And I start exploring the east wing, and I start seeing all sorts of treasures. Next thing I see like a chaloin, like a little window, and I open up the window, and next thing I know, I'm mamish on the presidential balcony. But that was up there. How did I get from here to up there? And I start going around the Abe Lincoln room. And next thing I know is I find myself deep in the wine cellar. How did I get to the wine cellar? Now, I know it's all one home, but I thought like the West Wing was one Inyan, and the East Wing was another Inyan, and the Abe Lincoln room was one Inyan, and the wine cellar was another Inyan. But before I realized it, I saw that all of them take me one to the next place through wondrous trap doors that I didn't know how I got there. But I see they're connected. So, Ramati was saying, if you really get into Lekutei Moharan, like the emes, I'm beginning to taste this. I'll just tell you the truth. Beginning, and it's very addictive. I'm not kidding. It's addictive. It's addictive. You start to see it's nifla how everything is connected, and you don't even know until you started walking in a place, and then it brings you back to something from before, somewhere in the East Wing. It's nifla. It's devarim nifloim. Nifloim me'oid. And all of a sudden you had no idea, and you realize the dam going around the body was the pu'ulus mishtanis. I thought the pu'ulus mishtanis was something else. No, the dam going to the lave, that was the pu'ulus mishtanis. And the lave is the achdus haposhet, trying to help and organize the dam. I didn't see that before. And all of a sudden I was on one side of the palace, and it brought me to another side of the palace. And everything is woven in together. There's nothing that's just like stam. Everything brings you back to the other spot. There's trapdoors everywhere. And as soon as you think you found all the trapdoors, you go into another trapdoor. Nifla. That's something from Chaim Moharan.
That's a pirush on Lekutei Moharan?
Chaim Moharan is the life of Rabbi Nachman, where Rav Nosson was saying all the things that were going on, the wondrous things that Rav Nachman was talking about. And it puts a lot of context into Lekutei Moharan. So Baruch Hashem, we got another infusion of about 50 of the English version. So it's a gift to everybody. We're so happy that everyone has their own copy. Write your name in it, write your notes in it. One of the big things here is that people should feel like they're becoming independent in learning Reb Nachman. They don't have to wait for any shir. That you could just sit and learn independently.
You need them sort of, right?
So let's b'siyata d'shmaya. What we're trying to build up here is giving people the independence through the way we're speaking it out, through the Chai Klolim that we learned, the 18 principles, which is really how to learn Lekutei Moharan. And then together, this is not like a shir, you know what I'm saying? This is a group meditation. This is where we're together going into the Torah. A little bit maybe what we're doing is we're walking through the palace together. We're walking through the palace together. Now, someone maybe has to say like, let's check this out, But if any time along the journey you say, I see one of these pishpitin, I see something like this beautiful ornament over here. Like, can we look at this thing? Can we talk about that? It's a pasuk, for sure. There's things that each of us will see that the other person won't see. And next thing you know, there's some book on that shelf over there in the Royal Library, and you think there's something interesting. You pull that book off the shelf, and the whole bookcase turns around. And next thing you know, you find yourself another hallway behind the bookcase. But you saw that book, and nobody else saw that book on the shelf. This is nifla.
It's a trapdoor.
Mamish. Even though I don't like the word trap.
Right.
Even though people understand what I mean when I say trapdoor. It sounds like, uh-oh. It's taking you on this journey. It's a deeper world. That's why I like kind of the book and the bookcase turning around vibe. That has like interesting, so like that has more positive, like we're going on a journey together.
Alice in Wonderland.
Something like there's like a journey ahead. And that's the idea. The whole project that Amati made was L'Tayl B'Torah, is that you're going on a tiyul. You're going on a journey through the Torah. It's not just, we learned the Torah, I got the data. It's, we're on a journey together. There's an adventure that we're on together. And that's how we get a coffee. And we're like, here we go. We have to make mention to the Avital family who mamish delivered big on the Lekutei. Should be a big schus for the ganze mishpacha, success in the business, tremendous hatzlacha. And all of the learning should give big bracha and koyach to the ganze mishpacha. Thank you, mamish. L'chaim. So we've been speaking about dam. We've been speaking about the blood, and how we said that when there's a tsar, when there's something that's pain, and we can go inside. We're holding on page in the English here at the bottom 76. That when there's a tsar, we said there's a pain, so the blood all rushes to the heart for an eitzah. The blood is going to the heart and saying, help us. Just like when there's a tsar, God forbid, in a community, so the community runs to the chacham, who's like the heart, and says, I need an eitzah. I need you to help me out. And we were trying to think, what was the eitzah of the heart? And then we mentioned that at the end of the Torah, Reb Nachman talks about all of a sudden there's the reya, there's the lungs. That really, there's a kiyam aguf, and if you turn literally to the last part in the English here, just so you see the words inside. Page 124, Ubishash alev bitsara. When the heart is in pain, all of a sudden, gam hareya bitsara. All of a sudden, the reya is in pain. The lungs are in pain. And then he says something interesting. Ki hareya hi kiyam aguf. That the lungs are the kiyam of the body. By the way, the word kiyam comes up a bunch of times in the Torah. And you should pay attention. That's another trapdoor. That's another book on the bookshelf. The word kiyam comes up a number of times. We're going to see soon, when we get to the reglayim. And the toimchei ayraisa, those that support Torah, are those that are kiyam. They're holding up the body. So how are the lungs connected to the ones that are holding up the body? And we're going to see kiyam when it comes to the dibur. There's a few places kiyam comes up. So you want to start making connections. And by the way, these are meant to be written all over. If you bring this back without colors and things, back after 120 years to Shemayim, that's not okay. These things should be tagged up, like we used to say. Mom is written all over. Ki hareya mekayemes alecha. All of a sudden, now the lungs are the very things that keep the moisture in the body. Halecha levana. My body needs something called lachluchis. It needs this moisture. Without the lungs, the body would dry out.
We're on 176.
But then we went to 124 for a second. So what happens if I don't have lungs, we talked about, God forbid, then the body would just heat up. Because the tenuous, all the movement of the body would heat up. So I need the lungs to keep the moisture in. But sometimes, if God forbid, the movements are too strong, the pa'ulis mishtanis overwhelm me. So then the heart starts beating very hard, the defikus gedolos, the heart starts beating hard, there's a pain. Something happens, there's a tsar. Lo aleinu, there's a pain. So the heart starts beating. And then the lungs, if it's really bad, there's an anxiety. So the lungs that are meant to keep the body moisturized and cool, and even the wings of the lungs that are cooling down the body, the lungs themselves can overheat, and then we're in trouble, God forbid. And you need something higher, you need the shemen. You need the oil. That's the shemen of Chanukah. That's the shemen of lahoidus alahalal, to say thank you. That's the thank you that we say even when we're in the pain. Now, the oil is also connected to something else. Because Rav Nachman here says that we need the oil, and it's the shemen that we talked about earlier in the Torah. Moving from all of us on the west wing to the east wing all of a sudden. So the shemen that we talked about earlier was what he called the shemen of emes. It was emes. So all of a sudden, what is it? It's saying thank you, or it's emes. And you see there's no difference. That saying thank you is a bechina of emes, and you start thinking out, okay, what does Reb Nachman mean? That the emes, that's the highest place, is emes. Kushta koi, everything is standing on emes. that the emes takes me out of any tsar. That maybe I realized that the tsar was an illusion to begin with. That really the emes is that there's nothing but you, Hashem. That's the emes. And there's nothing but you, Hashem. All of a sudden I get out of the tsar, it's from you. And I could say thank you. And that's a high part of the Torah. Now this is all happening inside of me. Once you learn these Torahs, you realize you're being spoken to. That the tzaddik is literally speaking and guiding us through life, through moving and navigating how to get through tsaras, which is this world of the pulus mishtanas, and how I can get myself back to a place of achdus hapashim. So the next layer we're going to go into today is about giving birth. Because everything that we're talking about becomes layered. And I realized last night we were learning, I remember when we first started the Torah, I was like, this is kind of a short Torah, like it's going to, we'll sort of get through it pretty quick, cover ground. And by the end, because there is going to come a time pretty soon actually, we're going to move to another Torah. It's almost like a kasha lai predoschem. There's going to come a time that we're going to move to the next Torah. At this point, I realize this is the longest Torah ever. I haven't even begun it. Like, how can we move on? I just am beginning to move through these heichalos and the chadarim. How can I move on? And the achsadrus, these balconies, these achsadrus, these awnings, that I'm like sitting under this awning and like looking out. And I realized as I look out into the ocean that was just a painting also. And I'm still inside the palace. It's just another way of looking at the palace. The whole thing it's just beginning. It's just beginning. Okay? I feel like this is the beginning of our chabura, of just understanding that this is like a long-term project, you understand? Rav Nachman's ore is getting very powerful in the world right now. Rav Nachman said that his ore is going to spread to the whole world. Mamish. When he said yochel, I said, I'm able. Able means, whenever he said I'm able to X, it means he will. It's still going on. And one of the areas that we were talking about last night is that this is going to spread and take over the world of psychology. Take over. I'm saying the biggest people are going to start calling you guys and saying, can you like teach me something out of Nachman? Like, this is the future. I don't know, like Chazal so well, like, can you translate a few things for me? But bring me into the palace, because I see this is the way that human psychology works. Rav Nachman gave this to, just help me out with some translation a little bit, Daniel. I could use your help in this one.
Take me to the wine cellar.
Yeah, please, let's go. Just guide me down. I've got like 5,000 clients. I'm like the biggest guy in therapy, and I realize like this is where it's at. So get ready. This is like we're training an army of healers. It's a nice way to see it. You guys are an army of healers that are going to bring healing to the world. And the world needs a lot of healing right now. So this ore is spreading a lot right now. And I feel like Shem Chabura, it's just beginning. It's just beginning. So in Ois Gimel, back to 76, we're going a next layer in the Torah. And from this, from the Toida of saying thank you, through the Tsar, and Halacha, and the Chesed, which itself, each one of these inyanim is like, you need to think about Halacha, and saying thank you. Through that, a woman can give birth in an easy way. Now the first thing that came to my mind, and we're open here, this is a very open space, was, wait a second, after Adam Arishon and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, it said that birthing is going to be difficult. So through this, birthing is going to become easy. Well, that sounds like we're going back before Adam ate from the Eitz Hadas. So something about what's happening here is going pre-Eitz Hadas. before eating. There was post-eating. That's the world of tsar. All the challenge of this world. And all of a sudden, through this, it's going to become easy again. Like as if I'm going back before Adam and Chava ate. Which sounds like, if I don't do this, mizeh, everything we mentioned so far, if I'm not working through the advice, then, God forbid, the Leda will still be bitsar. It'll still be difficult. So we don't want that. We want women to have easy childbirth. We don't want them to have hard childbirth. But all of a sudden we're going to see here that the challenge and the pain of the childbirth is the necessary function that actually brings out the baby. So let's just go step by step. At the time that a woman is getting ready, she's assuming the birthing position, she's bending in such a way. You don't just give birth, like just walking around. There's a specific way that this happens. The Gemara says, this is all based on Pharaoh, Paroi. At Paro told his cronies, called Gunda Delay, and all the Chevera over there in Mitzrayim, he said, go throw all the Jewish boys into the Nile. But Pharaoh, how will we know when they're getting ready to give birth? So Pharaoh said, because their legs will get cold and rock and stone-like. Meaning that the blood will rush out of the legs and start to beat and start to pound on the womb and cause something we call contractions. Because the energy at that moment is not supposed to be by the extremities. The energy has to move. The dam, the blood has to move to the womb to start knocking on the womb that we can move this baby out. Otherwise, it's a dangerous situation. The baby's inside, the baby has to get out. The doctors, we got to get this baby out. This is dangerous. And we'd prefer not to open up her belly. We'd prefer that the baby could come out naturally. So you need contractions. One of the challenging things is if a woman's not dilated enough. The time is getting on. It's getting dry also. Maybe the moisture is lessening. We need to get the dam to beat on the womb to move the baby out. Through that, through the dam coming up to the womb, it's going to actually bring out the baby. As the blood goes up to the womb, so it starts pushing on that area. It starts pushing the baby out. Now, is that a tsar? Is it a tsar for a woman?
Yeah.
The contractions? They teach you in birthing classes that basically what's about to happen is that there's going to be phases. There's going to be a first stage labor, there's going to be second stage, third stage, and then there's active labor. So the first stage, and they give numbers for these things. And they're, more or less, the general numbers, they're not set in stone. But they'll say, when the contraction begins, it'll be like a little bit, you'll feel something. But a woman basically can continue her normal life. And they'll be quite spaced apart. So 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, they'll feel like a little like, oh, something's happening. As you get into later stages, all of a sudden, the contractions are stronger. All of a sudden, your wife's doing the dishes or something, and next thing you just hear like holding on to the counter. Like, everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. Oh, it's all good. You sure? You sure? Just give me a second. Okay. And then all of a sudden, the timing of it is a little longer though. Okay, it wasn't a few seconds anymore. It was like a little bit more than that. Okay, 20 seconds go by, and all of a sudden, okay, back to dishes. Now, by the way, side point. You gotta know what to do at those situations. Like, are we like? Should I call somebody? Like, are you sure? Like, are we going to the hospital? Is the the doula, the midwife? Like, should we? So you have to know what to do. Okay, when it becomes more lamaisa, we'll talk. Okay, then all of a sudden it gets more active, where basically the dam is hitting more, and the womb is moving more, and now all of a sudden it's much more intense. The breathing is more intense. It might even be groaning. It's like this is as the labor is progressing, it's closer in between. There's not much space. At that point, we're talking about we're getting close to active labor. Essentially, what's happening is that area is dilating, and the contractions are getting stronger. And as it gets mamish closer, active labor, that's it. Like this baby, it's coming out. Now it's happening. And the contractions are literally like nonstop. And at that point, it's usually not quiet. It's usually not a tranquil situation. It's usually a little bit more lebedik. It's loud, okay? And it's not pashut. And it's usually very painful. And sometimes a woman will say things that are like, I'll never do this again! Because it's hardcore. And you just got to be there like, you're amazing. More or less, okay? You can't really do anything else. Except just, daven and give chizuk. And only through that tremendous pain is the hoylada. The hoylada only came because it was very painful. So now, let's go back to the beginning of the Torah, which we said when the dam goes to the heart. So we said, when do you say thanks? After you got out of the tzara, right? Arba tzrich and lahoides, Rav Nachman brought earlier, 4 people have to say thank you. Somebody went over the midbar, somebody who went and got healed, somebody who crossed an ocean, somebody who was in captivity. So there we saw that the thank you is coming afterwards, right? Afterwards, make sure you bring a korban toida to the Beis HaMikdash. But here, it almost seems like the tzara is the very thing that's helping the blessing come to the world. So is there a difference now that Rav Nachman went from the dam to the lave to the dam to the womb? So we're moving through the palace here. And you start thinking about this. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Is really the dam to the lave the same thing? The dam to the lave, we said, we compared it when there's a tsar and everybody comes to the chacham and they say, give us some advice, an eitzah. How do we get out of this situation? And the chacham gives, and then the community goes back to normal. The circulation returns. Well, the circulation returns here also. But the Yeshua, the salvation with the woman, happens at the peak of the pain. So you have to think about this. And afterwards, the dam goes back to its place. After the Leda, after the woman gives birth, the dam is no longer needed to be pushing on the womb. It did its job. It pushed out the baby. Also, the placenta has to come out, by the way. That's a whole part of the story. The person has to give birth to the placenta. Even after the baby's out, the contractions don't stop. There's a placenta that the baby was getting its mezainis from that has to come out. Be'emes. You have to birth the placenta, and it's a situation. It's mamish. So, and then, interestingly enough, even afterwards, there's these contractions. But then as time goes on, so the dam goes back to the regular talucha. To the regular talucha means circulation. And talucha, we mentioned, has the same root as halacha. So this is the halacha. So the halacha comes afterwards? Or it comes at the moment of the birth? And you start putting this all together, you realize there's a lot going on. And you start to organize the Torah in your mind. Shehu bechinas ta'alucha isadamim, shezeh bechinas toida halacha. So toida halacha, is that after the birth? Reb Nachman says, v'zeh bechinas toida halacha. This is saying thank you, and this is halacha. Shehu bechinas ta'alucha isadamim, the circulation of the blood, shechayzrin leilach kaseder. Now it goes back to its normal seder. Kenir la'el. Like we mentioned above, by the dam. After the pain, so the heart allows the blood now to go back to regular circulation. So is this the same thing? These are things that you start walking around with this. So Rav Nachman takes another move. There's another move where he's going to now compare the woman giving birth to those that financially support Torah. Those that are the Toimchei Raisa. So says the Rebbe, Ki gam halacha hi bechinas haylada. We said halacha is also, now we're saying that halacha is like giving birth. So what does that mean? Halacha is like giving birth. So we said halacha is giving thanks. How is halacha like giving birth? Halacha is like giving birth.
Sometimes it's painful to follow certain halachas.
Because I want to do this. Halacha is like giving birth.
Toil.
Maybe like the blood can represent the zrizas that go through a halacha, that'd be like it runs through the womb, and this is kind of like a little bit of a stretch, but just like after the baby is born, it's not done. You have the placenta, and then you have the contractions afterwards. After you do the actual halacha, it's not like, okay, done, check it off, I got it done. It's after the childbirth, like the main thing, you normally go back to the different thing. Maybe after, on the Tilat Yadayim in the morning, it shouldn't just be, okay, now I go and have my birth. You should like ruminate on the fact that, what did I do? How did that connect me to God? Like the placenta and then like the post. And like, it's a whole process, every halacha. It's not just like an action. It's a combination of your actions and your mind and your thoughts and your emotions. And it feels like so often people just do the action of halacha, when really it's this fusing of all the different parts. So just like with childbirth, you have the dam, and then afterwards it's this whole process. It's not just you have a baby and like zehu. It's same with halacha. It's this whole process, and we should be as involved and treat it as special as that.
But after the haylada, even after the birth, I'm still involved in it. Yeah. I'm still in the halacha. I'm meditating on it. I'm thinking about it, as if to say that the talucha sadamim, talucha, we said circulation is the same word as halacha. So that it starts going back, but even as the circulation is going back, I'm still tied in to the leda, because there's still something active happening.
You said before you're overcome with emotion when you do halacha, right? So it's like almost like you give birth to the child. The blood is still going around, like that emotion. I kind of think of it like that, like you're still involved.
Beautiful, mamish. Yossel.
I would say he brought up how certain people, they support Torah learning, and I was thinking maybe the money that they use to support Torah could be the dam, and when they learn Torah, that's like, I guess, the procreative act, and then like over time, like the ideas, the learning that they had, it marinates and it sits in a little, and that's like the 9 months that it takes to birth a child, and then all the dung comes together to bring out like the chiddush, to birth the halacha, to birth the child.
Oh, so yes, that's Rav Nachman's going to say exactly that. Exactly that. And Daniel?
Also, like, I know halacha isn't exactly what the Torah we got from Sinai, but you could also say that the pain we went through in Mitzrayim is like the pain of giving birth, and the birthing was when we got the Torah at Sinai, and maybe like the Torah and the halacha, I guess, are compared.
I mean, definitely, Har Sinai was the ultimate halacha shir.
Right.
And that was it. So if that was the ultimate halacha shir, gam halacha yibechinas hayloda, so then there must be a birth involved. So what was the birth? So the birth was, it says that when we left Mitzrayim, it was like goy mikir of goy. Like we literally birthed out of the womb of Mitzrayim. The kur habarzel. Like from the crucible of Mitzrayim. So we were like birthed out. It was as if we were tsugemished. We were inside Mitzrayim. Only then we became an Am. When we left, we became Am B'nai Yisrael. Am B'nai Yisrael. That was the beginnings of Am B'nai Yisrael. Before that, we were just a mishpacha. It was Hamish. Going through Mitzrayim, we became Am B'nai Yisrael, and then we were birthed out of Mitzrayim. They say that the splitting of the sea was like the waters breaking, and then coming through. That was the Mamish Leda. And now, that would be the tsar. That would be the tsar of the Leda. Is the whole Shibud Mitzrayim, Avodas Perach, the whole challenge of Mitzrayim. And then there's a Leda, and then the ultimate of the Halacha. So what would be the next phase of Tamchei Raisa, those that financially support? Maybe that's the Bizas Mitzrayim, all the gelt that we got from Mitzrayim. 210 years of back pay. And we were working hard. We were working double time, triple pay. Okay, let's see this next phase of the Torah. Ki yesh tamchei raisa. There are those people that are called the tamchei raisa. What does tamchei raisa mean? Literally means to support or like hold up Torah. Simple meaning means they're tomech, they give. They support Torah learning. Hashem made rich people that have money, and then He made people that are involved in Torah learning. But like we say, im ein kemach ein Torah. If there's no kemach, there's no Torah. How do you have Torah if there's no support of the Torah? Scholars and tzaddikim need to be able to eat. Those tzaddikim that their whole life is just involved in learning and being machadesh in halacha and teach us halacha. So they're bringing, we're going to see that halacha is like birthing something into the world. When you're saying Torah, when you're going to, let's say, a tzaddik, and you're going to a big person who's saying Torah, he's like birthing a way of living into the world that you didn't see before. Let's say you go to the Rosh Yeshiva, you say that I have a situation, what do I do? So, you don't know what to do. Through him hearing all the tzadim, he puts it all together, and then he then births into the world a psak. He's guiding you. There's like a vision that you didn't have before. And then he births it into the world. But that could only work if there was toimchei raisa. So the guy might come, he doesn't know what to do. He has money though. But his money's not going to buy him clarity. So what does he do? He says, I need to invest in those that are birthing clarity into the world. So he partners up with those that are teaching Torah, and he's able to then invest and birth clarity, birth new Torah into the world. Now, why is this all being connected here? Because what Reb Nachman's about to do is to teach us that in the world of the Taimchei Araisa, did they lose something when they're starting to birth something into the world, at least in the short term, they want to cut a check, $10 million, Esha Torah. So at that moment when they push the button transfer, so they look in their account, l'chayra, they see that they have $10 million less in their account. Right? They've lost something, seemingly. Just like when the dam goes out from the women's legs, the legs have lost something, right? The legs are chaser. The legs don't have dam. The dam is going somewhere else. In the end, after the birth, though, does the blood come back to the legs? Of course. It comes back to the legs, but now it also has a baby. Meaning it lost something, but then it got the thing back plus a baby. Is that a good business deal? That's good ROI. You got the thing back and a baby? That's pretty good. Right? You got something much more. So says the Rebbe, in page 78, that they give mamoin, they give gelt to loimdei Torah. So in the beginning, they have less mammon for themselves, which makes sense. When they give the mammon means money. It's missing from them. They don't have it now. They gave it to the Torah scholars. And this is what it means, that her legs became cold. She lost the blood. The blood went out of her legs and it went to the womb. So the legs are missing. There's nothing in the legs anymore. But it went to a place that something big would happen. Something very good would happen. There was a higher thing. There was a higher purpose. It's interesting that dam and money are very deeply connected. We even talked this. I gave my blood for this. When you work for something, it's like dam. Dummy. It's even a word for money. The dam. So the dam and the mensch are very connected. That's why, by the way, when a person gives tzedakah, it's a tikkun for his whole body. Because when a person, to make money, you give your ganz self into the whole thing. Your whole dam, your whole body is involved in this. And then you're giving that away. So you're literally giving something away that you worked the whole mensch. When a guy is working to make money, it's the whole thing. The whole mensch is for trapped in the Indian. He's totally involved in it. So now he's giving that away. It's like I'm chaser. I'm lacking. But is he really lacking? No, just like the dam is going to the womb, he's about to birth something. He's bringing something big into the world. Ki damim tarti mashma. Dam is like money and it's like blood. But here's a big aval. But afterwards, al yedei mamoinam, through their money, shemachzikim atamud chacham, the money that they're giving to the tzaddik, v'noiled halachas. What do? They're birthing into the world new halachas. They brought something new into the world. So did they lose? They brought something big. Noiled halachas, bless you. Shehem bechinas chesed. Oh, that Reb Nachman adds another layer. And this is all chesed. This is all kindness. This is kindness. This is the Chazdei David, the kindness of David. That we talked about, that Hashem is with David. And the Gemara told us that King David was the greatest Orthodox rabbi that ever lived.
What chazan?
Also. And a poet. And a melech. And a warrior. And a lover. King David. So the Gemara says about David that Hashem imoy, that Hashem is with him. that Hashem is Imoi. And the Gemara there says that the halacha was like David. The halacha, the kol makom. We always paskin like King David. The halacha was always like David. He was the biggest. So those are the chazdei David, the kindness of David. And the Nachman speaks later about if a person withholds, remember we talked about this? Withholds his student from being meshamish and learning from him, it's like he's withholding chesed. And we said the Maharsha explains that a Rebbe that doesn't let his student meshamish him, he like hides away. It's that the student is really going to the Rebbe to learn halacha, how to live life. So the Rebbe that cuts him off, it's like he's withholding chesed. So halacha is like chesed, because the chesed of knowing how to live, is there any bigger chesed than that you can give another human being direction on how to move through this world? It's not a simple world. After the Eitz Hadas Chevera, after the Kasha Leilid, after all the tsar of this world, that a person should be able to cut through the darkness and find a path through the Oiraisa, right? Oiraisa, which is Torah, is or. It's like taking a lantern into a dark place, and it shows you how to move around. Is there any bigger chesed to give another person light in a dark place, to move through this world? Or b'moishvoisam, to give another yid light. That's the chazdei David. That's the chesed, that the toimchei araisa, those that are giving money, they're allowing more chesed, more bracha, more Torah to come to the world. That's why it's a gevaldige schus to be able to give. Meaning, the Zohar says, what does Hashem do to somebody he truly loves?
Sends him someone in need.
He sends someone in need and allows him to give money. Meaning, if you really love somebody, that we're going to give you the opportunity, you've got $1 billion in the bank. You don't know what to do with that money. You're thinking, should I get another yacht? Should I get a Bugatti? I don't know. Decisions, free will. I don't know what to do. Another supercar. Like, I'm confused. Hashem says, I'm going to give you an opportunity to use that money for something that will birth chesed, that will birth clarity into the world. And even though it seems like, but wait a second, I'm going to have less, crypto in the account temporarily, until the Leda happens, and the birth happened because of you, and all the dam will come back to the regular ta'alucha. And the ta'alucha is the halacha, that you help bring halacha into the world. Which is interesting. You made a birth, but then the ta'alucha of the damim, which means the halacha goes back, because that's circulation. So what did you get? It looks like you got halacha and a birth. But I thought the birth was the halacha. Meaning that there's a child, but then there's also the talucha, the dam. The dam is going back inside the body, right? Talucha is halacha, we said. So I get the dam back. Is that just the money, or that's also halacha? And then what's the baby? So you see there's almost like two things happening to the toimchei araisa. The toimchei araisa, and by the way, the Zohar says, toimchei araisa are compared to the legs, which hold up the body. That's like the legs of the woman. That Yarach Hashem Mitztanen is. That the legs of the woman become cold, but they're holding up the body. Then the birth happens, and all the circulation goes back. Yosel?
What you were saying before about how Hashem sends people who need, is it true that special needs people are like Gilgul of really big tzaddikim?
I think so. That you notice that people with special needs, that number one, they're patur in mitzvahs, and therefore they're not here to do any mitzvahs themselves, because they're not chayiv, they don't have das, not chayiv in mitzvahs. But what you see from a very rational look is that a family that has someone in the family who's a special needs child, or older child, or grown man or woman, the entire family rallies around to take care of that family member completely. They become like this impetus and this powerful force of helping people around them be bigger givers. And because they are not chayav in Torah mitzvahs, in past lifetimes, they've already completed their tikkun. That's why they can't come back and mess up anything, because they're not chayav to begin with. So they've completed their personal avodah. They come back like angels that make other people into big givers. That's why when you go to Camp Hask or other places, I've just been zoicha to be there more than other places, you feel this amazing aura, like you're with big, big neshamas. And not to mention that all the people around are just day and night giving. Non-stop giving. It's like an atmosphere of endless giving. Nifla. It's an unbelievable mitzvah. Isaac?
So it's kind of interesting because our whole purpose here is to become givers, right? That's how you connect to Hashem and by taking on His characteristics. But something about people with mental disabilities is that it's very difficult for them to give, and oftentimes they're receiving, right? They're receiving from people helping them and having all these things done for them. So I'm wondering how, in whatever situation they're in, on whatever level of functionality they have, how they can connect spiritually. Because even though you're patur from mitzvos, it's not like a thing that you want to be patur from mitzvos, because that's what helps you connect. So how can a person who's always receiving be able to connect to God? Meaning,
so this, because in previous lifetimes they finished their personal tikkun, they come back and help other people become givers, which in a certain way is an additional schus for them, is that they're receiving for the sake of giving, which in Kabbalah, if anybody learns Ashlog, is the highest darga, receiving for the sake of giving, because they're purely doing that. Depends on how high functioning or low functioning. But let's say low functioning is it's like the power of a baby. The baby turns everybody else around into major givers. And I'll end with this. Tzvi Meyer said an amazing thing. He said, babies tend to wake up in the middle of the night and cry. So, and what happens? You hear the cry. So, tikkun chatzos. And the next thing you know, the parents are like, one rolls over, ki'ilu, like I didn't hear. Okay, you're going to give the bottle. No, you're the mama, Okay, and there's like in the middle of I got a long day, day at the office tomorrow, I got big meetings, It's gonna wreck me if I get up now, and all back and forth. At that moment, there's a real opportunity for a person to work on their midas, to be a giver, to go beyond their nature. So Tzimar said like this. Said, the baby, you think he wants to cry in the middle of the night? So he said like this. So the baby wakes up in the middle of the night, he's like, I'd rather be sleeping right now. But no, what am I going to do? My parents still have to fix their midas. So I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I'll do this little crying, and hopefully, they'll finally get the message, and I don't need to wake up. I'd be sleeping personally, That the baby is, I need to turn my parents into bigger givers. Okay, I'm here to help. You think I need this? I don't want this. I'd rather be sleeping. We should be zoicha mamish. We should be zoicha to understand, to see the ta'alucha of the dam, to see the toimchei araisa, the power of the giving, to allow the leida to happen. We should be zoicha mamish, that the ultimate leida, and we said that leida is connected to halacha. And I'll leave you with a question. Was there any, and I heard this from Rav Moti's father of blessed memory, in the Rishimas, I've been thinking about it a lot. If leida is connected to halacha, well then what was the greatest leida ever? was the Leda of the creation of the world. That was also called a Leda, a birth. So if the Leda of the creation of the world, if a Leda is connected to halacha, so what halacha was nischadesh through the Leda of creation itself? What halacha came to the world then?
Halacha?
Because Leda is halacha, like we said. So through that Leda, what halacha, what was the groisa halacha that came to the world? Through that Leda, the Leda of Maisa Bereshis. We should be zoich and mamish to be metayel and Torah Rabbeinu, to go through all the heichalos, to all the rooms in the palace, and mamish with that see the great palace of the Binyan Beis HaMikdash b'mehera v'yimeinu. Amen. Shachris.